Hey, it's Cy Blackburn here, and if you're starting out as a coach, I bet you've seen a ton of other coaches running Facebook ads, and everybody seems to be screaming at you that you have to run ad campaigns. Now, probably a question's come up for you. Do they actually work if you're starting out as a coach? Or maybe you even run a few small ad campaigns with a few $100s and it didn't work and you're wondering, well, can you actually tweak something to see if you can get them to work? Now, I want to tell you a little something. If you're starting out as a coach, running Facebook ad campaigns is a terrible idea. And let me explain why. Have you ever wondered why on your newsfeed, when you're scrolling down, you almost exclusively see ads from big name coaches? You never seem to see them from startup coaches. Or if you do, you see them once and then they vanish forever, never to be recognized again. Now, most people think the reason they only see big name coaches repetitively is because these coaches are very well known. And that is very far from the truth. The truth is, in order to run a successful ad campaign where you see return on investment to a decent level, you need a between $25,000 to $30,000 a month ad budget to actually make it work. Which is why when our clients are below $250,000, we never advise them to run Facebook ads because the return on investment is just not there. Now, the reason for this is simple. It comes down to one word: retargeting. Now, retargeting ads, you may have heard of them, or you may be wondering what they are. Have you ever gone to a website, and then for the next few weeks, ads from that website seem to follow you around the internet? That's what you call retargeting. The website places something called a cookie or a tracker on your computer, and that tracker will indicate every time that you go to a new website that you're interested in a particular topic and show you ads from the original website. Now, some people find it annoying, but retargeting ads are devastatingly effective. And when it comes down to human nature, you'll understand why. You see, statistically, it takes between 6 to 7 touch points for somebody to turn from a click to a client, meaning somebody that has never heard you, known you, liked you, or trusted you, into somebody that trusts you enough to ultimately sign up for your coaching. Most coaches don't actually run effective retargeting campaigns, or if they do, they ignore retargeting completely and they say, you know what, I'm just going to present my ad to as many people as possible and I'm not going to bother about racking up the touch points. I'm just going to make sure as many people as possible see the ad. That way I have the best chance of converting one of those massive amounts of people into a client. Now, if you don't work on nurturing those touch points, what's going to happen is you're going to be throwing all of your money into what we call the Facebook ads black hole, where you will never see a return on investment ever. And it makes sense when you actually understand, how does ad billing work? Why is it that you actually need $25,000 to $30,000 in order to run an effective ad campaign? Now, the reason behind that is simple. When Facebook shows your ad, it is called an impression. And then Facebook will end up billing you for these impressions. Now, obviously, if you need 7 touch points and you've got thousands of people which are reaching those 7 touch points, those impressions end up adding up. And thus, the billing effect from Facebook also ends up adding up, which is why you ultimately need a decent enough budget to overcome that 7 touch point barrier in a way which is ultimately effective for you. Now, however, when you look at the real reasons why Facebook ads don't work, it comes down to 3 reasons. Number 1, it was an inopportune time when they saw your ad. They could have been on the toilet just scrolling through their Facebook feed and they would have seen your ad. Maybe they thought, you know what, I'm about to leave. I don't have time to interact with this right now, so I'm just going to park it for later. Even though they may have been interested, it just wasn't the right time. The next reason is they just didn't like your approach. That particular ad, that particular angle, that particular image just didn't appeal to them. So they wanted a different angle in order to trigger them to take further action. And number 3, it's because they've been burned before. So they just don't trust people on Facebook. They inherently believe that anybody that just shows up once but never again is what you call a fly in the pan. They are ultimately scammers. Now, you've got to understand, there is retargeting and effective retargeting. Those are 2 very different things. Now, if it was an inopportune moment, meaning they were on the toilet and they just didn't have time to go further with your ad, then you could retarget them with the exact same thing and they would say, oh yeah, I remember that. I was interested in it, let's move forward now. Because this time they're on a desktop, they could be interested and they want to move forward. However, if they've been burned before and they don't trust people that pop up on their screen, or number two, they just didn't like the angle, then that's when effective retargeting comes in. Because if you end up targeting them again with that same ad that didn't work in the beginning, it's going to fail again. Now imagine, because you get billed by impressions, if you keep on showing ads which are not working because they don't resonate, or people think that you are a scammer because they've been burned before by ads like that, then what you're doing is you're wasting an ineffective retargeting budget on something which is just not going to work. But in order to create an effective retargeting campaign, number one, you need a decent enough budget to get those 7 touch points. Also, number two, you need expertise in order to understand what angles can you approach in order for them to take action on your ad. Now, all of this actually makes perfect sense when you really look at it from a step back and don't try to look at it as a technical Facebook ads trick, but you start to look at it in a way of human psychology. Because Facebook ads require nurturing. In the same way, building a relationship with anybody requires nurturing. If you were to do ads without retargeting, it would be like finding somebody attractive in a coffee shop, approaching them, and immediately saying, "Hey, will you marry me?" Now, of course, that sounds ridiculous at first glance, but most startup coaches do exactly that. They say, you know what? There are so many fish in the sea. I'm just going to approach as many as possible, and hopefully somebody will marry me, or somebody will do business with me. But business works in the same way as marriage, right? With any kind of business relationship, you need to build up the relationship with your client. You need to nurture them in order for them to know you, like you, and trust you. Because the fact is, if you found somebody attractive, you approach them and ask them to marry you, yes, you may on the surface look very sharp. You may appear to be everything that you think you're trying to portray. But the matter of fact is that this person doesn't know you. Doesn't know whether you'll stick to your commitments, doesn't know whether you'll stand by your own integrity. They only have this initial impression to make a decision. And that decision, if it's a micro decision, it's okay. But if it's a huge leap, as in approach to marriage, it's not going to work as well. Versus if you approach, start a conversation, date for a few months, and then ask to marry them, or even a few years and then ask to marry them, that's an entirely different scenario. Because they can trust that you will stick by your word. They can trust that when times get hard, you will be there. And in the same way, asking a client for business right off the bat is like asking somebody to marry you without them going through that dating process. You need to go through that dating process of 7 touch points so that these people, these clients, can trust in your integrity, trust that you'll keep your word when times get tough, trust that what you have is of value to them. It's actually going to serve them before they do business with you. So no nurturing equals no business. Now, most coaches, when they approach ads, especially when they're starting out with a small budget, they want to reach as many people as possible and present them with the message, hoping that they'll nab a fish. But what ends up happening as the reality is Facebook will only show your ad once to these people. And I'm sure you scroll down your Facebook feed and you've seen ads from people that have come and then vanished. What is your perception of these people? Do they deem trustworthy to you? Can you trust in their integrity that they'll stick by you? Well, the reality is the vast majority of people that see an ad once will not engage with it. Or if they do, the conversion rates, meaning click to client, will be dramatically lower. However, if they see you again and again and again, that's where the conversion rate picks up, and that's where the retargeting takes care of nurturing the client so that they sign up with you. But unfortunately, most coaches don't do that. Their message is spread thin and wide. But then what happens when you see coaches out there that you never see again? Most of them are perceived as scammers by the target audience. And as more coaches, especially startup coaches, pile onto Facebook ads, they are flash in the pans. They appear today and are gone tomorrow. And of course, so many target clients have been burned by coaches that approach business this way that there is an inherent distrust for coaches that appear like that. So by actually going into Facebook ads before you have the expertise or the budget, you are then perceived as that same flash in the pan. You are then perceived as the scammer. And as a result of that, your reputation ends up taking a hit again and again and again, as well as this constant spending on ads, which doesn't seem to end. It's just going into a black hole with no return on investment. And that cycle ends up continuing until you run out of budget and you have to shut down the campaign. Now, if only you took a step back and waited until you had exactly what you needed, your business was generating $250,000 a year, the story would be entirely different because you could create those effective retargeting campaigns. But without the expertise or the budget, it's just going to continue as a spiral downwards, which is why most coaches that even get into ad campaigns end up failing at their first, second, third attempt because nobody tells them what they truly need in order to make it work. Nobody tells them about effective retargeting. But I bet you're wondering by now, how is it possible to build up a business to a $250,000 mark if ads are not going to be effective for businesses that are less than that? But what about, instead of investing in people that don't know you or don't trust you, or investing in people that you need to nurture through 7 trust points in order to build up their trust in order for them to buy from you, you were able to reach people who are predispositioned to trust you and ultimately needed what you had enough to take that next step with you without spending a penny on ads. You see, my story is not dissimilar from yours. When I started out as a coach, I didn't have credibility. I barely had any clients. But the thing is, in order to get credibility, I needed to get clients. But I couldn't get clients without that credibility. It's a little bit like you need a job, but you need experience to get a job. But you need a job to get experience. It's this cycle which keeps on going round. And that continued until a mentor taught me how to find people that were predispositioned to trust me without spending a penny on ads before my business reached $250,000. And it was a form of getting traffic, getting targeted clients to me where they already knew my value. They already were more receptive to knowing, liking, trusting, and they had a demand for what I wanted. And that mentor taught me exactly the steps to get that source of target clients. And with all of the coaching businesses that we've worked with, they have that same cycle going on. They need credibility, but in order to get credibility, they need clients. But in order to get clients, they need credibility. And by working with them on finding their target source of clients, they were able to grow their coaching business through to that $250,000 a year mark before they even spent a penny on advertising. Now, I'm aware that not every coach has the opportunity to get a mentor to help guide them through what that source of traffic is for them and their particular business. And when we got into coaching, one of the things which I started to realize again and again and again was that there were coaches with amazing talent, but not enough business acumen or skill or budget in order to hire the right mentors to guide them through this entire journey. Now, this is what I'd like to give to you. I'd like to give you a complimentary business transformation session with one of our business strategy team. Now, this business strategy team has coaches which have been featured in Forbes. Some of them are even contributors on Forbes magazine. They've worked with coaches ranging from Mr. Universes, Olympians. They've worked with coaches who are even MS survivors. They've worked with thousands of coaches over the 10 years that they've been part of my team. And this is not through webinars or seminars. This is through one-on-one calls. So because of this, they have the insights and necessary experience to really understand what is that target source of clients for you. Is it going to be Facebook? Is it not? Where else are you going to find your target clients so you can build that $250,000 a year business so you can ultimately then scale it with retargeting? And what you may find in the process of that business strategy session is, yes, one, what's missing and essential is that target source of clients, but it may not necessarily be the only thing. There may be other things which you may not even be aware of, which are missing and essential in your business. Now, this business strategy team and your business strategist will help identify and pinpoint that for you. So if you want to book in your complimentary free business transformation session, just click the link or click the button on your screen and you'll go to a calendar where you'll have the opportunity to fill out an application to be part of that free session. But one thing to bear in mind, we only have a few business strategists which are at the right place with the right experience to help you out. And so because of that, there are only limited spots on the calendar. And once those spots are gone, our strategy team is booked out and they won't be able to take anyone else. So it's important that if you want to book in your spot, book it in the moment you're seeing this video. What's going to happen then is you'll notice that you can only book a few days in advance. Now, the reason for that is fairly simple. What's going to happen is your coach is going to reach out to you and really get to know you and your case and exactly what you're struggling with in the business. So when you do get on that session with your coach, they're able to be effective and get you what's missing and essential in order for you to get to the next levels in your business. So go ahead and book in your session and you'll be served very well by one of our business strategists.